Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Amma ba'du fa'uzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. These are the Ramadan daily Quran studies for the year 2024, written by Zahid Aziz and produced by Ahmadiyya Anjuman Ishaat Islam, Lahore, UK.
Study 4 God's Extensive Favours to All Human Beings, Part 1. The creation of man is thus spoken of in the Quran in chapter 32 as follows. 6. Such is the knower of the unseen and the seen, the mighty, the merciful. 7. Who made beautiful everything that he created, and he began the creation of man from dust. 8. Then he made the progeny of an extract of worthless seeming water. 9. Then he made him complete and breathed into him of his spirit, and gave you ears and eyes and hearts. Little thanks you give. 32, 6-9.
ذلك عالم الغيب والشهادة العزيز الرحيم الذي أحسن كل شيء خلقه وبدأ خلق الإنسان من طين ثم جعل نسله من سلالة من ماء مهين ثم سواه ونفخ فيه من روحه وجعل لكم السمع والأبصار والأفئدة قليلا ما تشكرون.
In his creation, God displayed not only his power and might of creation, but also his mercy. Verse 6. God being merciful, or Rahim, created man as a mark or sign of this attribute, and in order to manifest his mercy in the world. So man is not a curse for this world and planet, despite his destructive behavior, but a manifestation of mercy. Man's creation from dust, verse 7, does not mean, as many thought traditionally, that God cast in clay the figure of a complete human form and then breathed life into it, and it became a real physical human being called Adam. Verse 9 clearly gives us to understand that it happens to every human being that God makes him complete and breathes his spirit into him. Beginning man's creation from dust, if taken physically, means that his life originated from elements that are in the earth. If taken metaphorically, it means that man is created with humbleness in his nature and the inclination to submit to God. Scientists now think that life on Earth originated from dust coming from space which settled on Earth. They say that this dust, known as cosmic dust, contained material from which life developed, which led to human life. Verse 8 points man to the origin of each and every individual, a drop of semen which looks to have no worth or value. And, as verse 9 says, it becomes a full-fledged human being who can hear, see, feel, and think. He is granted the power to obtain knowledge through these senses and then to analyze that knowledge and draw conclusions from it, and make decisions by means of his brain. Little thanks you give means that people fail to use these faculties for his full development. There are people who blindly follow and obey others and refuse to use their own intelligence, deny education to themselves, or those who, while having the power in the country, fail to make education accessible to the masses. While they acquire great knowledge of the material world, they ignore completely the spirit that has been breathed into man for moral and spiritual development, and care not to read or learn about the guidance sent by God. As every human being, man or woman, has the divine spirit breathed into him and has been given the senses of hearing and sight to gather information and a brain and mind to process it and reach a conclusion, it means that the most basic human right of any person, as envisaged by Islam, is to use his own senses and to make up his own mind. Allah's mercy and favours are granted to all, even to those who choose to reject the message sent by Allah. The Quran says, "Whatever Allah grants to humans of His mercy, there is none to withhold it, and what He withholds, none can grant thereafter. And He is the Mighty, the Wise. O people, call to mind the favour of Allah to you. Is there any creator besides Allah who provides for you from the heaven and the earth? There is no God but He. How are you then turned away from the truth?" 35, 2 and 3. In one place the Quran mentions the person who aims for this transitory life and Allah grants him his desires, but he loses in the hereafter and has no share of spiritual life. It then mentions the one who desires spiritual good and is rewarded amply. It then adds, "All do we aid, these are well as those, out of the bounty of your Lord, and the bounty of your Lord is not limited." 17:20.
كلا نمد هؤلاء وهؤلاء من عطاء ربك وما كان عطاء ربك محظورا.
The unbeliever is also aided by God in his striving, which might only be for material gain. The bounty of God is not limited to some particular section of mankind.